290 million years ago, the global Panthalassic Ocean was a dark, high-pressure expanse. Soft-bodied cephalopods like the ammonite were the dominant prey. Catching them required a specialized biological tool. Out of the abyss, a predator strikes, using a jaw that operates like an internal circular saw. As the mouth closes, a spiral of serrated teeth rotates backward, slicing the ammonite shell and pulling the soft tissue down the throat. But if you go looking for the remains of this apex predator today, you won't find a skull or a spine or fins. The deep time of the fossil record erased almost the entire body of the animal. All that survived is a permanent, fossilized spiral of teeth. Without a skeleton for context, these remains left researchers with a century of questions regarding how such a geometric arrangement could actually function. Because this creature's skeleton was made almost entirely of unmineralized cartilage, it disintegrated rapidly after death. Only the hard, heavily mineralized tooth whorls endured the millions of years of geologic pressure. When early scientists first unearthed these perfect, tightly coiled spirals, their precision led observers to believe they were the fossilized shells of an exotic mollusk. It took a Russian geologist named Alexander Carpinsky examining a specimen in 1899 to recognize the truth. Those ridges weren't shell segments, they were serrated teeth. He named the genus Helicoprion, meaning spiral saw. But a saw requires a mount. Without a skeletal blueprint, early paleontologists guessed wildly. They theorized the world jutted out from the snout like a defensive spike, rolled out from the tail to strike at prey, or sat prominently on the dorsal fin. Without the biological chassis that held the gear in place, scientists couldn't comprehend how the predator hunted, or how an active swimmer could navigate the ocean with a circular saw protruding from its body. The breakthrough didn't happen until 1950, when a mining operation in the phosphate beds of Idaho pulled up a crushed whorl. Crucially, this particular specimen preserved a faint trace of cranial cartilage around the teeth. Decades later, in 2013, researchers placed that exact fossil into a state-of-the-art CT scanner. The resulting 3D models proved definitively that the whorl grew inside the mouth, fused into a robust lower jaw taking up its entire length. The scans also identified an autodiastolic jaw suspension and a non-suspensory hyomandibula, structural markers of the holocephaly lineage. This placed Helicoprion among the chimeras, or ratfish, rather than true sharks. Identifying it as a giant ratfish rather than a shark forced paleontologists to throw out a century of anatomical assumptions and reconstruct the predator from the ground up. Since a complete body fossil has never been found, researchers extrapolate the animal's size by comparing its largest 22-inch tooth whorls against the whorl-to-body ratios of its smaller, fully fossilized relatives. Those calculations reveal a leviathan reaching up to 39 feet, or 12 meters, in length. But unlike the heavy, robust girth of a modern great white shark, Helicoprion had a sleek, torpedo-like fusiform body. It was built for efficiency and speed. It didn't lurk near the seafloor. It was a pelagic nomad, a highly active cruiser that hunted across the open, interconnected waters of the global ocean. At 12 meters long, Helicoprion occupied a niche similar to a modern great white, but on a larger scale. Its presence across every ocean basin indicates it was the dominant apex predator of the late Paleozoic. Helicoprion lacked upper teeth entirely. Instead, the lower spiral functioned as a solitary meat-slicing machine, working directly against a bare, hardened palate. Closing the jaw initiated a complex motion. As the lower mandible moved up, the geometry of the joint forced the circular saw to rotate backward in an arc, pulling the teeth cleanly through tissue. During a single bite cycle, different segments of the whorl performed distinct tasks. The front teeth snagged and hooked the prey, the middle teeth delivered a high-pressure slice, and the rear teeth pushed the processed meat down into the throat. And the saw kept all its blades. Unlike modern sharks that constantly shed and replace their teeth, Helicoprion retained a permanent dental record. New teeth grew at the rear of the jaw, pushing older, smaller teeth forward until they curled down into a tight inner spiral. A hard-shelled animal would slip right out of this mechanism. But against the rubbery skin of ancient squids and soft-bodied cephalopods, it was an ideal specialized hunting tool, snagging, slicing, and swallowing the prey in one continuous mechanical motion. 252 million years ago, massive volcanic eruptions in the Siberian Traps triggered the end of the Permian period. The eruptions set off a cascade of severe ocean acidification and widespread hypoxia, wiping out roughly 81% of all marine species. A massive high-metabolism predator should have been the first to suffocate. Yet the fossil record shows Helicoprion and its closest relatives successfully navigating the apocalypse, crossing the extinction boundary into the early Triassic. The exact mechanism that made its bite so effective for processing soft-bodied prey allowed it to exploit whatever squid populations survived the trophic collapse. It lingered for millions of years before eventually being outpaced by newly evolving, air-breathing marine reptiles. In the mathematics of natural selection, we usually assume that generalists inherit the Earth after a catastrophe. But the persistence of Helicoprion shows that an extreme biological design can be the exact tool required to survive a mass extinction. You are suspended in the pelagic Panthalassic. It is cold and pure black. And then, out of the dark, a massive shadow opens its mouth, and the deadly saw begins to spin.